Because the Tour Championships takes place at the serious end of the season and has relatively few matches, it's unusual to see too many flamboyant shots. But for whatever reason, this year we're spoilt for choice, which actually makes it a real challenge to decide which of these shots is best by recreating all of them as accurately as possible and then playing them in the fewest possible attempts. But we're going to have a go anyway. And who better to begin with than the man taking his 33rd tournament win? John Higgins needed to play this shot with a lot of left-hand side to open up these two reds. After he got it, he was able to clear up and take the frame, levelling off the match at 3 frames all. To start off with, I've realised I'm potting the pink into the wrong side of the pocket, so even though I got the cannon there, I didn't get on it in the same way as John and possibly wouldn't have been able to get back up the table. I found if I put it into the correct side of the pocket, I can even go too far, but this time I've got it absolutely perfect. So the last John Higgins shot made a huge difference as it allowed him to go on and win a crucial frame, whereas this next Mark Selby shot makes virtually no difference at all. Although it's a really good pot, Mark actually misses the following blue and leaves Neil Robertson with a chance, although Mark does go on to win the frame. But at the moment, I'm struggling to get anywhere near the red. Because my table isn't anywhere near as reactive as the ones you see on TV, I need to play this at almost full power to get it right, and I'm just struggling to cue it properly at the moment when I'm doing that. I'm starting to get closer, and in fact I've got it, and the practice from this will help me out with later shots. This next Judd Trump shot creates the question, how much did he really know about it? As it looks like he's playing the plant here, but that's not actually what happens, and he has a good look at this before he plays it. It may have looked like he was attempting the plant, but he didn't. He was playing this red into this red, so it would hit this red very thin and head towards the pocket. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible to recreate, but I'm going to give it a go. On my first attempt, the reds were a little bit too far apart, so I've actually potted it off just one, which isn't exactly what I'm going for. I've got to get the distances right all the time here because I keep getting the red right through the middle of them, and that's just because they're not quite close enough. However, that's definitely worked. I've even potted 2 reds, nearly 3 as the one was heading towards the corner. Kyren Wilson needs snookers against Ding to stay in the tournament, but manages to get one here by using a small amount of right-hand side to spin the cue ball around the angles, thin off the green, and get the cue ball tight in behind the black. Ding would actually miss this snooker, giving Kyren a chance to win it, but he'd eventually lose the match when he knocked the brown in by mistake. My first attempt caused me to miss the green altogether as the side reversed as the cue ball travelled down the table. My second's gone a lot better and I've got in behind the black. It's not perfect, but I had another 10 goes and I didn't get any better than this. Barry Hawkins is another player close to being knocked out of the tournament, although this frame's going quite well. He's already made it up to a 94 break and might have made a century had he not have snookered himself, but manages to pot the yellow out of the snooker anyway. I thought I'd have a go at this as Barry obviously played the shot, but I just want to see how many attempts this will eventually take me. For Barry, he ended up failing to make the century break after he missed the blue and would lose the match in the very next frame to John Higgins. As you probably guessed, as soon as I started speeding the clips up, this took quite a while, and I don't think I was getting close enough to the correct angle enough of the time. It felt like I was hitting the wrong place or missing the yellow altogether far too often, but it slowed down, which must mean I got it. Didn't really hit it hard enough, but I'm just glad it went in. This isn't just a good pot from John Higgins, it's mostly about the cue ball control, as he gets the weight perfect to leave himself in position on the black. He would then go on to take this frame with a 66 break. Well, it's gone in, but have I hit it hard enough? I've just sneaked past the red so I can see the black. Not quite as hard as John's, but still good enough. Judd trumps under pressure now, 9-5 down against Barry Hawkins, so decides to hit out with this long red. He actually screws it back off the bolt cushion from all the way down the table. However, it doesn't help him out too much in the end, as he ends up losing this frame and the match to Barry Hawkins. I'm playing this shot with a little bit of right hand side to try and help the cue ball back off the cushion, but it's just making the pot a little bit more difficult. However, I've got it and cued it about as well as I possibly can, although it's still not the right side of the bulk line, but there's nothing I can do. Another show of cue power now, this time from Guodong, who's got what looks like a fairly straightforward red, but needs to screw the cue ball back to get it out of a tight position around the other reds and into position on a colour. Not only does he manage to do this, but he ends up taking the frame and then eventually the match by 10 frames to 8. I have a feeling this one's going to be incredibly challenging because it's difficult enough just to pot the red at the speed required to screw the cue ball back down the table, but not only have I got to get that right, I've got to get it out. I've got through the reds and back down towards the green spot, so I'm going to take that even though I hit the wrong red. He may be 9-2 up, but how impressive is this from Mark Selby, as he just floats in this long distance red, leaving himself in position on the black, which gives him a chance to clear up for frame and match, which he manages to do with a 58 break, winning the frame by a single point. The problem I'm having with this is the cue ball keeps slightly rolling to one side just before I hit the red, so I've had to hit a bit harder. I think this was me putting side spin on it rather than the table, but either way, that's the best I could do. The commentary team for this match thought Barry Hawkins was completely out of position, but he manages to make this double anyway. Unfortunately for Barry, he misses the next colour as he doesn't end up nicely in position, but it's still a good double, so let's see if we can get it. Initially, I thought this was going to be a really awkward angle to judge, but it's actually not too bad, and I think I've got it here. The white's about in the right place as well. Up against that is a frame-winning cross double from John Higgins that he uses to take the 7th frame in the semi-final against Barry Hawkins. When I initially saw John's shot, it looked like a natural angle to just drop it in and get the cue ball back to the top cushion, but it looks a little bit thin the way I've got it set up to do that, and I think I may have slightly misplaced the balls, but hopefully if I can get the angle right, I can still knock this one in. I've got it, although I possibly set it up a little bit too thin. But which was the cheekiest double? Although the John Higgins shot was a frame winner, it's a natural angle, so it only gets 3. Whereas the Barry Hawkins shot didn't look like it was on, so he gets 4, and he's this week's winner. Well, we haven't had a go at this classic Judd Trump exhibition shot in a while, where he plays the cue ball twice around the table to end up in position on the yellow from the black. Interestingly with this one, the pink's off its spot, which should make it a little bit easier, but on the negative side, the cue ball looks fairly straight on the black, so I'm going to have to hit this very hard and get the angle right at the same time, which I think is going to be a little bit tricky. Honestly, it's not too bad. I do have to hit it as hard as I can, and that's making it difficult to avoid the bolt colours as I can't quite judge the stun perfectly at this speed, but hopefully if I miss them, I've hit it hard enough to get round the table. You see, this is one where I've just not quite hit it hard enough, and that allowed me to get the gap, but I've got to play through the gap with more speed than that. That's about as much power as I can get on the shot, and we're looking good here. It's a bit too tight because my cushions react a little bit differently, but that's about as good as I can do. On to Ding now, who's trying to make the clearance against Mark Selby and plays this crucial positional shot off the blue, screwing into the cushion with reverse left-hand side to develop the red for the opposite corner. Ding would go on to take the frame, but this would only be the second one he won, and he wouldn't win any more frames other than this, so it showed how hard he had to work to even get a frame here. The goal here is to screw into the cushion and strike the red fairly full, and I seem to be doing everything but here. The problem I've got is I have to hit it fairly hard and get through the cue ball well enough to get the right angle. If I play the shot slightly too slowly, it comes up top side of the red, or if I play it too hard, I'll go in behind it. I've only pushed it onto the middle, but I'm taking it, otherwise we could be here a while. Barry Hawkins really cues this red well, screwing the cue ball back down the table, but eventually John Higgins would clear up and take the frame with a 62 break. Now we can find out if I'm cueing any better than I was at the beginning of the video. Well, I seem to be, but I've come back on the wrong line there. I'm heading towards the yellow and I need more to head towards the brown, so I'm going to have a go again, seeing as I got it and I should be able to cue well enough to get it again fairly soon. Yep, it's gone in, I'm on a better line here, and I can pot the yellow, so not too bad. We've got another John Higgins shot coming up right after we find Tony from Nausa, Greece, which is there. John Higgins has found a way to pot the red off the pink here and screw the cue ball round two cushions. However, he just slightly overplays the position and ends up on top of the black. This one is going to be a real test of how well I can set the balls up rather than how I can actually play the game, because it's more of a trick shot than anything else. And it's taken me a few goes to get anywhere near it. I underestimated just how much the red would push the pink and how far forward it would go. That was a complete disaster though. The red and the pink and the white have all gone in the pocket, so I need to try again and get a little bit closer. I've got it, no other balls have dropped in quite this time, the pinks just missed. That's pretty good in the end. The frame may be over, but this is a really well cued shot from Xiao Guodong, as the red's pretty close to the cushion for the pace he plays it at. And not only does he just pot the red, but he also screws the cue ball back onto the pink here, which wasn't actually necessary, but he goes on and does it anyway. I think this is going to be a really tough one for me to get right. By the looks of this, I keep cueing across it with left-hand side, and that's why I end up missing it in roughly the same place every single time I play it. I'm hoping if I can stop miscueing as well, that eventually I'll cue one right and it's going to go right in the middle of the pocket. And not to mention it's a little bit harder than the screw shot I tried earlier because it's further from the cushion. I'm starting to get closer, so hopefully in a second... Nope, it's not going to happen, is it? I'm never going to pot this. Oh, there we go. I'm actually pretty good on the pink as well. Not too bad there. Well, that's my bit done, but we still have to decide a winner, and that's up to you. You can vote for the shot you thought was best using the link in the description. And if you want to see more shot recreation videos from previous tournaments, have a look at these two. Remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.